Welcome back to Command Value 1, and happy holidays. We're about halfway through December. This will probably be our last episode of the year, I would guess. You guys think otherwise?
Yeah, probably. It's not too far off from Christmas here. I'm sure everybody has lots of family plans.
Yeah. Well, and what's better for Christmas than, say, a sweet-ass terrain bundle?
Correct, yes. So
What do you think of that? Louis better
on the
start
website,
giving us. Louis better start giving me some marketing money here. That's all I gotta say.
yeah, so at the very least, you can check out a few of the really cool bundles that pertain to the TT Combat games anyways. So Zone has one in there, and Carnivale, I believe, had one in there. And
they got those zone buildings ramped up in rapid succession, too. It was, for a while, it was like 6 buildings, and now there's a table's worth of them.
Oh, right, yeah. Now that we have all those, because we went from, I think, like 6 lasers to 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. A bit more cutting capabilities now than we used to have.
Yeah, and go ahead, Jordan.
I mentioned to get in the buildings, the MDF buildings I don't have yet.
Well, I've been looking at the range in general, just as I've started dabbling with bolt action, looking for more terrain for that. And, I mean, there's something for everybody. They have a ridiculous collection.
Yeah.
If I ever play 40K, I will buy some of their orc terrain.
Yeah, and more coming too. I mean, we for a number of weeks there, we were putting out several new sets of stuff. So, yeah, who knows? But we'll get out there next.
Well, the other fun, cool thing is the Advent calendar is back. So
yeah,
back in the old days, that was all zone/fleet there at the end. But now we're getting Rumble Slam and Carnivale along with fleet and zone.
Yeah, potentially maybe a new type of building will squeak its way in there. Who knows?
Oh, are you being now, seriously, if I'm only getting 3 zone and 3 fleet in the Advent calendar, I don't want a building to be one of them. Come on.
Yeah, I actually personally don't know what's all going to be in there. But given the range of things that we do, who knows what'll end up in each of these.
Well, that's really about it for the new stuff.
The first day for the Advent calendar was pulled, and it was a new Rumble Slam wrestler.
Yeah,
it was it looked like a giant carp or something like that. So that'll be interesting to see if that's going to be a superstar, or are we going to get a whole new fish team or aquatic
could you say
team?
fish team with a straight face? I'm just curious.
Yes, I did say that. That's Rumble Slam.
But did you say it with a straight face? That's the question.
I did, yes.
It's
Rumble Slam. Who knows what you're going to get out of there?
You're a company man through and through. Well, since we moved to bi-weekly, the what's new takes a little less time. So that's really it for all the new stuff coming out as far as TT's concerned.
Well, we're also doing that. We're right at the very end of that Kickstarter too.
Yeah.
We're pretty much almost down to last. I think we're getting pretty close to the last 24 hours right now. And I'll tell you what, the Halfling Kickstarter, one. Yeah, it's done surprisingly well. Way better than I was expecting. So there's some pretty cool pieces of terrain in there too. Like I'm really digging the Halfling terrain. So if you're if you don't care about the Halflings themselves, you can get a pretty decent bundle of terrain that you can make add into the like the Hobbit game if you have that from GW, or some doing even some dwarf type of lodging maybe.
I saw they also had a kickstarted or a stretch goal batch of human heroes that just got added in.
A few generic fantasy type things in there as well. Yep.
Don, I saw what you did there. You said digging the halfling terrain.
Puns. Well, that segues into an interesting thing I found out about too. Since I've been kind of getting hot and heavy with bolt action. Warlord just announced a new fantasy war game using basically bolt action rules. But it doesn't look like they're doing a range of minis. It looks like they're just going to kind of use the minis that are all out there. So if you need a Hobbit army, I guess here's the game to use it for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, well, let's bounce along here. game recaps. I know I've got nothing. My entire brood has been sick. I've been sick. The guy that I'm doing the drop fleet demo for Paint All the Minis with has been sick. So I've got no games in. Don?
Yeah, I've got no tabletop games in, but I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2 quite a lot. Whenever I can squeeze an hour in, or even on the weekends. I think I've dished my family the last couple of weekends almost to play that.
Okay, well,
but
if we're going down the video game route, I did have some gaming.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we're kind of a general gaming podcast as well, so that's why I thought I'd bring it up. But yeah, it's an excellent game. I actually did not play the first Redemption game. I played Red Dead Revolver. So
that was the shooter one, right?
That was the shooter one, yeah. So this is my first dive into this world. I'm not going to talk about it for spoilers purposes, but it's been very, very cool. And there's tons and tons and stuff to do in the game. I mean, this is easily going to be a 100+ hour game for me when I get done. So,
well, I picked up a Humble bundle a while back, and it was all Warhammer stuff. Well, I got Space Marine in there, and I got Battlefleet Gothic Armada, and I got Dawn of War 3 for $12.
I'm actually looking forward. I might check out the GW strategy game that's on Steam. Warhammer. Wherever the new Warhammer one is. It's a strategy.
I'm not sure, but
it's a strategy game.
Like new or newish?
Came out last year, a year before, but they've got an expansion out for it that just came out with a couple new races. And so they don't have Nurgle, which is my favorite, but
because they've done a few Total Wars.
I think it's the Total War, yeah, but there is a new version of it.
Well, I loved Dawn of War when it first came out. The original Dawn of War, I think, is what got me to buy my first Space Marine army. So I haven't played Dawn of War 3, but Space Marine was a surprisingly good action romp. I don't know. I know I talk a lot of GW crap, but it is a long-lived, thriving universe that, as silly as it can be sometimes, it does have some cool moments.
And I think sci-fi in general just plays a little better in a digital format anyways.
Yeah. Well, Jordan, have you played anything?
Yeah, I got a game of drop fleet in with Aaron like a week and a half ago.
Did you get curb stomped?
Curb stomped would be an exaggeration.
It would, because there's no curbs in space.
Right. It was typical Dreadnought on Dreadnought game that it was pretty even until one Dreadnought was dead. And then it's can you kill the other Dreadnought quick enough for it to keep you in the game? And I could not.
So you had some hot double D action?
Yeah, and I lost out and couldn't nick away. Aaron likes to run the little combo with the
Calypso?
Yeah.
Yeah, he seemed to be pretty excited about that.
Which one did he take? The Bertha one?
He took the Romulus.
Yeah. Which one did you have? London?
I think I did. I did do the one in that game.
Okay.
I think you convinced me that.
I think I had a round and a half with it. I did not get to effectively fire with it. Like, I don't think I got to launch once with it because I wasn't quite aggressive enough, and he turtled a little bit. So.
Oh, was it the launch one? That's the Washington.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think you kind of convinced me that not taking the Washington is a little foolish because the firepower you give up really isn't that significant compared to Launch 15.
Yeah. What's hilarious is during playtesting, we were like, oh, the London's and the curb stomp and everything. Who would take the Washington? Well, not who would take it, but I mean, it seemed like the London seemed, of course, the choice to take. But then as soon as it got out there. Guns. Yeah, so, right, exactly. So, but as soon as it got out there, everybody. The Washington has by far been the favorite, so I mean I think that's a pretty cool turn of events there.
It's fun to see what happens once it gets in the hands of the players.
Right. Yeah.
Value wise, it's easy launch to build, whereas building that medium range enough launch for it to matter for the UCM, it's not necessarily that easy to do.
Getting a New York and 2 Seattles and a Havana in there. Is it a Havana?
Yeah, and it's not necessarily the point values. It's just putting those in a list and the slots they're taking up is a little weird, I think.
Yeah. Plus, with Seattle, you're paying a premium because the guns on it are pretty damn good as well. So,
yeah, as far as a carrier goes, the Seattle's still an all-around good ship. I mean, yeah, it's good guns and a good launch.
Probably one of my favorite ships of the faction.
But so for the game, I think it was close, but it wasn't. We didn't score at the end of the game. He had a 2-point lead after turn 4, and then end of turn 4, middle of turn 5, we kind of called it because we knew I wasn't going to catch up. There's a couple things I could have done better, but I did do him some convincing that the Madrids can conditionally be very valuable for what their points are, even with just one kind of sneaking on its own. Depending on what you're shooting with it, you're blowing up certain advanced sectors. One Madrid can do a lot of devastation to a sector. So,
yeah, I mean, as far as bombardment goes in that game, if it's not a or if it's not a Remus, then I think the Madrid's still a solid choice, and probably better than a Ganymede.
Yeah, the only thing it has is it's kind of defenseless. Otherwise, it's got a couple of 4+ shots. Otherwise, it's not too great. And I don't know. Anytime I take that thing, it's a target. Like, people just hate it and they want it gone. So I never really get to use it very effectively. I guess drawing fire can be an effective way to use a ship, but not something that expensive.
The only thing it effectively does is bombard. It doesn't really do much else.
Right, exactly. So,
what's the battleship, the bombardment battleships? That's Tokyo.
Actually, don't.
Yeah, you forgot about that, didn't you? Yeah, Beijing is the burn through, and New York or Washington. Yeah, New York's the carrier. Yeah, I saw the first tournament I ran at Origins. The one dude showed up with a Tokyo. Didn't do him much good. I mean, because
well, the point
is what it is.
The point of investment in that, it's kind of a weird spot. I don't think it's ever an effective take.
I'm curious with Josh's upcoming bombardment heavy tournament if we'll see any Tokyo show up.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious to see how he's going to balance these missions, and honestly, it'll help because I really wanted some bombardment into the new scenarios in the new book, and since he's doing all the work for me,
well, I think the biggest problem now though is Dave had to go give us the Remus, and that's
he really supposed that type of mission.
Yeah, so. It just kind of. Well, I want to assure I have a victory here, so. Well, let's move on to some hobby. Jordan, you got anything you're working on?
Yeah, I'm finally painting my dreadnought. Got it primed, ready to dry brush, base coat. Another pack of destroyers. Finally painting up my tilt rotors.
Nice. Getting your Pizarro done?
Yep. Yeah, a lot of stuff that I had assembled primed, but came out late enough that the move kind of stopped any of the real assembly finishing on them. So
yeah, the real question is how many tilt rotors you got there?
2.
Okay, all right. Those one.
I think I think 2 is about the sound number you should have, isn't it?
Yeah, at least available, anyways.
Well, Don, you've been doing a lot of actual work. Is your job considered hobby? I don't know.
Yeah, why not? Since my job is taking up all my hobby time. Yeah, so I got. I'm just continuing on Carnival. Like I said a couple episodes ago, it's going to be my pretty much my answer for most of these in the coming months here. So, but I have gotten a pretty good chunk of the guild done. So I'm pretty happy about that. It's been going pretty smooth.
And quick. Not sound like I'm being an ass when I say this, but for you, you're painting really quick.
Yeah, I'm not painting these things to like the best standard I can. I was asked not to because of how slow I am, but I still am getting them to an impressive state. Certainly a lower upper tabletop, low display kind of a thing there. So
I think you're arbitrarily creating standards because they look pretty damn good.
Everybody has to create a name or a standard of something, so I have to label it. It's the way things go. You got to label it. But yeah, it's been pretty fun. I tell you what, though, when you're doing a lot of batch painting, especially in a game like Carnivale where you don't have a bunch of like Space Marines where everybody's one color or whatever, you start to run out of color variants, and you start being like, well, I guess I'll use green and blue again or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm the other side of that. I've been painting a ton of orcs and bolt action, so I'm painting a lot of green.
A lot of one notes.
Yeah. You know what though? That as far as doing that batch painting though, painting I first a stack of orcs and a stack of airborne and going back and forth. It's helpful trying to like hone in on doing highlighting and getting my painting up to a standard that you find acceptable.
I don't know why you're trying to reach an acceptable standard for me. Just worry about your own expectations.
Because the gauntlet has been cast down, so now I have to improve myself. I finished up that Battle for Hoth diorama. I posted a couple of pics up in the group on a while back. That is the brother's Christmas gift. So,
oh, cool, yeah.
Hopefully he'll like that. But other than that, it's just been airborne zombie side and now a half track, a gray half track. Don, it's gray.
Yeah. I will point out that your airborne are coming along quite nicely. Okay, so you've been progressing in a couple of weeks that you've really been focusing. You've progressed a lot. So, kudos to you.
Thanks, buddy. Don taught me how to paint eyes. Which it sounds stupid to say that, but honest to God, you did. You taught me how to paint eyes, and it was really helpful.
Yeah, quick techniques that you learn when you're trying to. I kind of learned that when I was doing like Blood Bowl teams for a commission because I was like, I got to get these done fast, way faster than what I was doing, and then nobody you get the people who do it at the end and they're used to it and that's fine, but I find it's just much easier to do while you're getting that skin tone done, and so you don't have to accidentally mess it all up, especially if you don't have a steady enough hand. My technique helps quite a bit on that one.
Yeah, like I said, it almost seems counterintuitive. Like, I wouldn't have thought that because it seems backwards. Like, no, you paint the eyes last.
Right, yeah.
But it does make it easier to go in there and be able to clean up that shape and tuck things back in with the flesh tone.
And for those that are wondering, my technique is pretty simple. So when you get the base coat down on your skin, you paint the eye, and you can do it in a much more hapless fashion because you're more worried about getting the white where it needs to be in the pupil where you want it. And then you go back through and you reshape the eye how you want it with that base coat, or even a darker tone if you want the eye socket to be a little more recessed looking. And then so it helps because then you're not worrying about getting that perfect stroke of white and black in there. You can clean it up and then move on from there. Of course, that doesn't help if you're the type of person that puts a heavy wash on the face when you get it done, because then you'll muddy out the eyes. But
well, and that's I discovered that quick shade mixing medium, and I've been cutting all of my washes in half now every time I use them, and that makes a huge difference. It doesn't muddy the miniature up, and it doesn't, it gets right in the recesses and doesn't leave a bunch of residue all over the place and make it look like you just kind of threw it in the mud.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, look at you, man, advancing.
I know. I feel like an adult.
Cool. Move on.
Sure. We're banging right through this. So we threw up in the Command Value 1 page the other day, or a couple weeks ago when we did our last episode with Patrick, the whole holiday wish list idea. And this has popped up in the Zone and Fleet group, and largely I want to avoid that. because I think we all kind of agreed we'll just stick with the ones that were in CV1 and maybe a couple of things that we wanted on top of that. And that keeps the list a little more concise. So Rich, this is the same Rich out in California, runs Green Stuff Industry, right? Makes that awesome underground hangar.
I actually didn't see the names. I just have what you have in front of me here. So
I'm pretty sure this is him.
Sure.
He suggested in his holiday wish list tying exotics to command value level, and I thought that was an interesting concept. The idea being is you can take a squad of exotics per level of CV or something like that. The argument he threw out is a CV1 commander should not be able to have 4 stands of sirens. He plays PHR, so let's go with that. I can see the logic in that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
This isn't a hill that I'm willing to die on. I mean, it's not a make or break for me.
Yeah, I don't see very many people take a command level 1. Most people don't take worse than 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of, it almost mirrors up with what you take exotic-wise anyway, so.
Right. He did suggest he'd like to see the Janus squad size reduced to 2. And I absolutely agree with this because getting a pair of Janus on a single Triton would make it much more useful to get in my list and something I would consider over Valkyries for point-wise.
That'd be fine. It kind of helps fill in that last little bit of points too.
Yeah, and they're not a devastating unit, and I know there were talks of variants, like maybe a flamer version or something coming in the future. It would make the slot a little more usable and the unit a little more useful. So I would like to see that. Jordan, are you dead?
No, I'm here.
Okay, you just haven't chimed in. He also suggests that Janus to make the unit something that people would want to take because honestly, your scout choices in PHR, you've got the Janus, you've got the Valkyrie, you've got the Mercury drone. The Janus really isn't appealing for many reasons. So he suggested maybe them being able to enter forest, which I absolutely think that would be awesome. And maybe structures. Structures I'm less iffy on, but are more iffy on. It also led me to think, well, if you're going to let Janus do it, you'd kind of have to let Ronin and Samurai do it.
And Prowlers and things like that. You kind of open up a can of worms on that, and then you're running. The problem with that, though, is it's a unit that doesn't have a CQB value. So when you're putting it inside of something that has infantry inside of it, you have to apply a CQB value to it. And I don't know if we would ever be able to go down that route. I do see what he's saying, and I don't mind, like you said, I don't mind them getting into a forest, but it would have to be a situation where they get into a forest, no infantry are occupying, and then we're starting to look into like needless rules and things like that.
Yeah.
I know. Bringing up the Ronin in comparison to the Janus, I think it's kind of in a similar spot, though, because I've not seen many people take Ronin very often.
I got to tell you, I saw Patrick take Samurai with version 2 rules at MGT, and they were bad. They just stood outside the building and incinerated stuff. Ronin's still less, but something like, it's an Energy 9 shot, and they're a cheap unit. Something like Focus on them would really make them devastating.
It's interesting that we talk about these units right now because when Dave and I were looking over these for version 2 changes to them, it's not a problem that they're a bad unit. It's just that there's other things that are better. And you get to the point where if you make them too cheap, then they become too good.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
but then you can only make them so strong, though. You know what I mean?
It's the whole thing of adding units to the army, and man, does an army need another unit? Are we reaching the point with this game where we're getting too many units?
It could. I wouldn't say too many units. It might be that maybe we need a points increase, just to make them, because it's like one of those things where you get down to the last bit of points and you're like, do I take this or do I take that? But if you're giving people expendable points, I would say, then maybe
or as part of it, list building structure or overlap in the rules of what units do and play style.
Right. And sometimes it just comes down to somebody finding a really good use for them, and then people go, "Oh, okay, I never thought about it that way." So really, I mean, not to put it on the community to make our units better and useful, but
but you guys do something.
You do.
No one's still taking storm wagons.
Right. Yeah. So you do occasionally find that one person who, like, all of a sudden out of nowhere found that pair up in that niche, and you're like, oh wow, that makes so much sense, and maybe it just hasn't found its way into the meta yet. So
I haven't met one person that takes Aethers.
Aethers?
Aethers, yes.
Dude, that's my preferred indirect fire choice.
Yeah, I would take them if I was playing PHR, to be honest with you. Although I did have
small
the
energy 10 template, all day, man, all day.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that unit, and
it's
on a skimmer.
Point, yeah, it's a point issue. It's being able to fit them in.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're getting at, is where people are having to make those hard decisions, and this unit is a better option than this one. Not that other unit is a bad option. It's just not at the points level. You got to make that hard decision. So,
well, yeah, it's like another unit that pops to mind in PHR, Erebos. I love it. I can never justify the 40 or 50 whatever points they are now to take them.
Exactly. So
it's just that they're hard to fit in.
So, but who knows what 2019 will bring? So we'll leave it at that.
Well, the Advent calendar is suggesting it'll bring at least a dozen things. So he also threw in, Rich had a long list of things. I was able to consolidate everything in just one for him. Letting commanders call in indirect fire. He kind of summed up that really all commanders do is give you command cards. And yes and no. As a PHR player, I'm surprised to hear that statement, because Zeus Odin bricks in a Nord are the bomb diggity. And it's not like the Hera brick is bad as far as a mobile strike force goes. And the Nemesis gives you 9 DP on an armor 9 frame with an infinite range laser that I believe... No, it doesn't have Devastator, does it?
Let's say for its class, it's usually a better unit, or it brings something unique to the table in itself. UCM, for example, it's bringing the laser, what's the command unit with the laser?
The PHR, the Nemesis?
No, for UCM.
UCM does not have a laser command unit. Oh, yes, the orbital laser, the Kodiak.
Yeah, the Kodiak, thank you. So, I mean, that's something that you don't have within the army in itself. So that's bringing something, even though that's not a strong chassis, it's bringing something new into it. So I kind of think that that's sort of along the lines of with most of the command units, they bring something to that table.
I gotta tell you, I love the Kodiak as far as a command choice with UCM, but the advent of critical location missions, like, makes that unit harder to use now. It's like, damn, now I have to put it up front to control something, and that's rough with the Kodiak. But it's rough with any UCM commander, because it's not like the Phoenix is a badass.
It just has to get too close. It has to get really in the thick of it.
Yeah, but I mean, strong winds kill that thing.
And your standard UCM list, I mean, if you got a Kodiak, chances are you're heavily using the drones with.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Well, I mean, yeah, that seems to be a combo anymore, but everyone seems to forget that Wolverines are cheap and effective. And with the Flame version of the Wolverines coming out, I think that'll be a resurgence you see as the Kodiak with those.
Yeah, and I hope that with the Albatross being way more useful than it ever has been, that we'll get those bricks of tanks out there, which is really kind of what they're meant for.
Right. The last thing he threw out, and I do agree with this, he was thinking PHR transports with alternate options. Now, he has like 1, 3, and 5 capacity. I'm not so much worried about 3 and 5 personally, and I know there was talk at one version in beta about I think a Triton variant that could carry 1 armor. I think that's something desperately needed with the changes in version 2 to list building. I would not cry about having an A1 Triton for PHR. That would make getting access to my heavies a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to have to start going in that direction, because as we get into unit bloat, we need to start thinking of creative units that have places within it, within the group of things in itself, and certainly having alternate versions of things, or in this case, maybe a transport that carries one unit.
A 15-point Triton that can carry, a Menchit.
Right.
And then that opens up that entire slot. So if I want to get a Hades, it's like, okay, I've got that one Menchit on a Triton that can go clear a building, and then I can bring my Hades on a Poseidon, and that battle group is full at that point. I can move on to a different group to get my full 6 groups.
Right. So yeah, it's certainly something, like you said, we've kind of already looked at, and so it's not something that'll make sense for every faction, but certainly a few of them anyways.
So Ryan threw up, he'd like to see a new beta release and units that have been proofread, Don.
Oh, he wants them proofread? Oh, man, that's somebody else's job.
Yeah, I guess we probably didn't help as much as we should have when MGT rolled around. And we kind of asked Dave about this a couple of episodes ago if we were going to see another beta version. As we roll into January here pretty soon, because I imagine that a lot of the TT staff are going to see Holiday sooner than later. We're looking at 3 to 4 months before we're talking about version 2 supposedly being in our hands. Are we really going to see another version of the beta, or do we have enough time to see another version of the beta before a physical release?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've kind of ran out of time for it to be an effective thing to do, which really is sad because it kind of needed it. I mean, we've done some really good things since the initial release. Obviously, there's an entire faction missing from that one, but also just tons of rules that we did a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of things that just carried straight over without, just a little bit of rewording or whatever. But anybody who played it and looked at the tournament packs from Michigan GT essentially got to see what would have been a new release or the updated release of that. Obviously in an unofficial capacity, being that it's not on the website. But
do you think that we'll see any additional closed beta testing just to kind of hammer out some questions or issues before the release?
Yeah, so we've done testings even since then. A lot of the things in there didn't really need that much more testing. It was just it's going to be a lot of those like spelling errors and copy and paste errors and those types of things like that, as far as anything that was. Yeah, exactly. We've ran into a few like pair ups as far as transports go, where you're like, oh well, that's just not going to work, or and that was actually surprisingly a much bigger problem than I had expected, was the whole the way the change for the transports go, because you're not just looking at a transport and saying this carries, or a unit, I should say, and saying this goes in a transport and this is how many. Now it has a letter associated with it, and then you have to look at it. Well, how many letters do you hand out, and then do you want to put that much paperwork into a particular transport, or do you just say, well, this unit is now opened up to these other transports that they didn't have an option of the last time? So
keep it simple, stupid.
Right? Yeah. So, and then a lot of times we looked at it and we're like, well, there's no reason that it shouldn't be able to go that route. So
right. Well, Jesse.
So, anyways, long story short is probably not going to see another version hanging around before it goes to the book. So,
you've just depressed all of our listener.
But again, it's not up to me. I've turned all the notes in and all the stuff in, so it's kind of up to the office right now.
Well, Jesse said he'd like to see the advent calendar come back. Surprise, Jesse! You got it back.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Maybe not. We're not entirely in the capacity he was hoping for, but there should at least be something new in there for Zoner Fleet.
I'm going to act like that was all on us and just, take all the praise and adulations for that.
Right. Merry Christmas. We got that for you.
Michelle.
As long as the calendar matches the pictures.
Right. Michelle brought up an interesting concept I haven't thought of: an infantry support unit that grants active countermeasures to infantry. Now that we're going to see infantry out in the open more often, that's kind of a cool idea.
And you know what? Without getting into any details, we've kind of been looking at that going into the version 2, not this specifically, but something that potentially has that power already. And you know what? This is actually pretty cool. I do like this, and I could see this being maybe a PHR gimmick or something like that.
Well, the PHR needs more gimmicks. I mean, if you're going to give something cool out, make sure the Republic gets it.
Right, yeah. So I'm talking about like this would be like one of the like Sheltari or I guess there's an argument that most factions could do it. I could see the Resistance like putting together some sort of weird stolen Scourge piece of technology.
I was about to say, we've moved along far enough in the plot of this universe to say that the Resistance has plenty of technology from plenty of races to scavenge and use now.
Right, yeah. So that could be kind of cool. And in fact, that's actually a pretty good idea as far as moving forward with that faction is.
Some weird truck.
Yeah,
they've
stolen
on it.
Well, maybe. And you know, yeah, Jordan, you were just going right where I'm thinking there. And don't make it just infantry, but give the Resistance a unit that can actually drive out and provide countermeasures to wagons and technicals.
So yeah, it could certainly be stuff like that where, you know, stolen technology is now not just from Scourge now. So
wait, can I just do like a stealth paint scheme and that gives it to like the whole blocky white black thing? I mean, then you can't be seen by anything, right?
Well, it depends on the environment you're in. I mean, you have to make sure it matches the table.
Gotta make sure the carpet matches the drapes, man.
All right, then.
Well, Patrick was our last one, and he wants 3 sold-out events at Adepticon for Christmas.
Well, he's got 1 out of 3 already, so
yeah,
his event actually. So the story, the echoes from space, whatever his thing is.
No, that wasn't much lower cap.
Yeah, we did increase it by 2 more players, so that is still sold out.
Well, who's the jackass that's running the Drop Zone event at Adepticon? What kind of promotion has he done for it so far?
I've done a lot, but I haven't needed to because that has the most players in it right now. There's actually listed, I think, 2 or 4 more Zone players signed up than Fleet. Those are 24 player caps, so it's a big player base. I think we're sitting at 14 or 15 for Zone right now out of the 24.
I was heading that way right now to check on that and see if I can get a number.
Well, go you, Jordan.
And Fleet was at 11 or 12 last I saw.
Well, maybe you should just take over running Origins too.
All right. Well, I haven't even put anything in the Drop Zone groups, so all credit is to the minor amount of, hey, Adepticon registration's open, go register, and that was Don and Patrick. So
yeah, so we're sitting on 14 for Drop Zone and 12 for Drop Fleet. Both cap at 24, so that's 10 and 12 spots left respectively. Leading up to the end of the year, so hopefully we can at least get somewhere around 20 players.
So if you're going to Adepticon, get your butt out there and pre-register.
At the very least, let's do better than last year. I think both tournaments had 14 last year.
That is correct.
How do you know? You weren't there.
Because I talk to people, Jordan. I'm sociable. I like interacting. Fox said he likes me way better than he ever liked you.
Oh man.
And he says he agrees with Don. You suck at painting.
So yeah, let's head into our own wish list here. I'll go first on that one. So we've each decided we're going to add to this list with our own personal wish list items. Mine is I've probably already talked about it before, but I would really love to see some new infantry units out there. I think there's a lot of different things we could do with infantry still in this game, and I think that's going to be the direction going into beyond Battle for Earth, is maybe another wave of smaller units for each of the factions. So it could be infantry, or it could be another idea I had was even just add on parts for existing units. So, I mean, you could just get a blister kit that adds a couple different varieties of bear usage. APC in general usage, I guess. Things like that, where maybe it's point filler stuff. Add-ons that might cost you like 10 points upgrade or something like that. I think that would be pretty cool.
Dare I say something along the lines of war gear?
Like sure.
Warhammer, where you're adding a piece or a part to a model you already have.
Yeah, we could go that route, and could be entirely new kits, who knows? But I think that's kind of the route that we need to go, because we've already kind of hit on unit bloat, and you kind of want to worry a little bit about some of that stuff. Even going into a second edition, like I said, we're really struggling to give a new identity to units that aren't necessarily being used that much, because they're not bad units. They just don't, have the opportunity to get on the table. So that's the direction we're going to go into with that type of stuff. And I think a whole new round of infantry would be pretty cool to see.
What about you, Jordan? What's on your Christmas wish list?
So since all the new drop zone buildings are on the mind, and not that I have them all in my hand yet, it got me kind of thinking about, what about the Sheltari buildings, or the Scourge buildings, or even the PHR buildings?
Especially the PHR buildings.
I'd like to see some of those, see a little bit more variation. See if we can't get a bit more of a alien world. I mean, I know most of the battles are, Reconquest and the human worlds, but
yeah, but there's been some beautiful artwork that Patrice did of what like the Foundry looks like with all of its Scourge buildings, and it's really cool.
Right, and now that we're moving closer to what, Battle for Earth, right?
Mm-hmm. Earth, it's ERF.
Earth. We should, have a bit more high Scourge influence terrain, I think.
Agreed.
Yeah.
that piece of artwork. Go ahead, Rich.
I was gonna say we can even go as far as games of drop zone and hangar bays and stuff like that have been alluded to, but there's no real scale,
like on space stations.
Yeah, exactly. There's never been a really good scale for that, because there's obviously Fleet lets you know that you fight even on space stations and stuff mm-hmm. like that. So
that promo art for Battle for Earth that they debuted at Gen Con that Patrice did has that awesome Scourge Citadel in the background. You see the New Orleans coming down, and it's dropping out Albatross and Condors, and they're kind of heading towards this massive Scourge spire up in the middle of the city.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Jordan. That would be cool to see something like that.
Right, yeah. So what's your wish list, Mr. Derek?
I don't want units. I want organized play. I want a press ganger, war corps, Sarge, Talon program, whatever you want to call it, whatever TT needs to call it. I want that organized play position that gets the support and gets the events brought down and the prize support brought down, and is empowered to really go out and grow the community in the game in a nice, neat, reliable, organized fashion. The talent program wasn't perfect. There's a lot of people that are still doing it. I know Privateer did away with theirs, but I found out I have a local Sarge in my area for bolt action, and he's starting a league up, and he does these awesome terrain tables, and the shop is really getting all in, and they're ordering stuff direct from Warlord, and it's just a really neat, to know that, hey, one day out of the month, this dude's running this stuff, and it's fully supported by Warlord, and it's cool. It's nice to know that you're at least a step away from the company in some capacity that way. I really think that needs to be a primary concern for TT going forward. That we get some level of organized play out in the community and some voice that can speak directly to the player base that's not, a paid employee of the company.
Right, exactly. And we're also, this is beyond even a game or a couple of games. We're now sitting on 4 games that could really use somebody out there in the field. And what the interesting part about that is you can take on as many games of our catalog as you really want. So it doesn't have to be like, if you're getting a little burned out on Zone, maybe this week you do some Rumble Slam or, whatever else you like out of the catalog that we have. So.
Right. All right.
So, yeah, I think everybody's really on board and just anxiously awaiting whatever the office comes out with on that end.
Yeah, we've been waiting a while for that. And I think that's something that they really do need to move forward on. So that's what I want for Christmas. If they want to give me something for Christmas, I want my TT status back, whatever that was, whatever you're going to call it. I'm still out doing the same thing that I would have been doing, if it was still Hawk. I'm still trying to organize play dates somewhere at least once a month. And, we're still organizing tournaments and working events. And, so none of that's changed. It just is less official, I guess.
And efficient, I would say, as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But speaking of all those events, John reached out to me and asked if we could kind of give a primer for upcoming events.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've got a few. February, Don, you and Jordan will be traveling out to Sin City.
Yep.
Not to gamble and go to the Bunny Ranch, but to sell TT Combat wares. And are you guys running the tournaments?
No.
Talk to me, Goose. What's going on with the tournaments at LVO?
Currently, we have tournaments for both Zone and Fleets. Let me look and see if I can remember. I think we're doing 1,500 apiece, respectively. Give me 1 second here. Sorry.
That's okay. You look that up because I did these out of order. In January, in Cleveland, Josh is running his Drop Fleet tournament that we referenced earlier. I believe it's 12 players. What, Jordan?
His tournament's going to be the bomb.
Oh, God. Why? Why do you do that? You're silent. You're silent like 90% of the podcast, and it's like, opportunity for terrible pun. Go! See, Don, we could have done this yesterday. We wouldn't have had to deal with this. But I believe he's doing 1,500 points, Drop Fleet, and I think it's 12 players. I don't know what kind of turnout he's got right now. I know we're
found it. Okay.
Thinking about going. Jordan, are you going yet? My going is based on you and Aaron driving up and picking me up.
I'd like to see if I could go.
Well, keep me posted, but do it sooner than later so I can beg my master. The cat. The cat won't let me go.
The cat.
No, it's my wife. It's my wife. Don, you found your LVO stuff?
What is going on here?
Way to be prepared, slacker.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm 99% sure it's 1,500 points for both. And that's Jeff Doty doing that for us. So he, excellent dude, does a lot of stuff in the community as well. I'm sure a lot of people have heard his name.
Yeah, I recognize the name.
He's doing both tournaments for us graciously, while me and Jordan man the booth. So that'll be pretty fun there, and we're going to be doing demos of Carnivale and Rumble Slam at the booth.
You realize you're going to be correcting people's pronunciation of Carnivale the entire weekend, right?
Sure.
Carnival.
Carnival. You got that Carnival game?
Well, John, who requested this in March, is running CincyCon. We went to that last year. It was a good time. I'm affectionately renaming it GordoCon this year because we're going to crash at Jordan's house and wreck the place. I mean, hey Jordan, can we crash at your place?
Right. I'll have to unwreck it before you can come down here and wreck it.
So what you're saying is we have to come down and clean your house to find a place to sleep?
I don't know about clean. Yeah. Some of the move-in's still kind of going slow.
But... As long as I don't sleep on dirty underwear, I don't care.
Well, I'll be sure to bring dirty underwear for you to sleep on.
Oh, great. So yeah, CincyCon, that's obviously it's just outside Cincinnati. Is it actually within the city limits? I don't remember.
It's a northern suburb of Cincinnati.
Okay, yeah.
It's like Hamilton or something like that.
I was surprised. We did that one last year, and it was a pretty nice little con.
Yeah, it was a good time.
It was in these two. What do you call those?
Was the tournament Don won.
Yeah, surprisingly. What do you call those? Jordan, you probably know. What's those metal buildings that they're in? They're called something. They're actually, there's an official name for them.
Kwanzaa Hut.
Kwanzaa Hut, yeah. So it's a couple of those with a little connecting structure in between them.
So it was at a fairgrounds. So if you ever been to a fair, like what the merchants or youth buildings are typically are.
I did not know what a Kwanzaa Hut was until just about 38 seconds ago.
Heard the name before?
Nope.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I thought I knew the name, but I didn't want to sound like an idiot, so. Yeah, then after CincyCon is Adepticon.
Right, and we've got Patrick running a narrative event.
Yeah, he's got his narrative fleet event, fleet only. This is encompassing multiple tables for one single event. And you can travel amongst the tables. So that's going to be pretty fun.
And then we've got Jordan running Zone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh is running Fleet. And if I'm not mistaken, his January tournament is kind of a test run / warm up for his Adepticon tournament.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's definitely testing out those missions to see if he can use them or not. And then we have Alex running our Rumble Slam, our sold out Rumble Slam tournament. So that's pretty cool.
Woo! That's a big turnaround in a year for Rumble Slam.
Yeah, no kidding. Last year was the first year it was at a U.S. show, was Adepticon. This year, we sold out at 16, bumped it to 24, I believe, and that resold out.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah. So we're sitting pretty good on that.
Hopefully you'll do the same thing at Origins. It sold really well at Origins as well. So,
yeah. Speaking of which, I got to submit that.
Yep, I got to submit the tournaments for that convention as well. So Origins, let's talk about Origins. I don't know what the hell's going on there.
Yeah, so you have some ideas for Zone and Fleet, and then we'll have a Rumble Slam tournament there. And as soon as Lewis from the office decides to give me some sort of organized play information, I can submit a Carnivale event. So we can have Carnivale.
Do you want to hear what my plans for Zone and Fleet are at Origins?
Yeah, I think we briefly mentioned it before, but why don't you go ahead and remind everybody.
Right. So Friday I'm going to do Fleet. Saturday will be Zone, and I'm doing a 3-round escalation narrative tournament. I'm putting all the descriptors in there I can get. So I'm going to do round 1 is going to be 500 points. Round 2 is going to be 1,000. And round 3 is going to be 2,000 points. There will be key locations and objectives in each mission that will grant bonuses moving forward into the next mission, as well as the next day, because the sectors that you're fighting over in each mission in Fleet are going to be carried over to Zone. So the orbital battle will be going on overhead while you're playing Zone. So there may be a key location in the Fleet game that you capture. And if you don't play both days, it's not like the bonuses are going to be so big. It's going to be game breaking. But if you do play both days, there'll be stuff that happens as the tournament goes on that carry over to each game that you play. So
game 1 will correspond from Fleet will correspond to game 1 in Zone the next day.
Right. So the 500-point game of Fleet, there will be a single cluster and a couple of space stations. The cluster that you're fighting over, you'll be waging a drop zone battle on that one specific sector in that cluster the next day. And I'm not going to tell anybody what it is because I don't want them dumping all their points at it. But needless to say, I'll have a custom scoring sheet that they'll have to come through and answer some questions and debrief me after each mission so that I can note what they did. And then that'll carry over and be the event for the first round of Zone the next day, and that's going to carry throughout the entire 3 games. So I'm hoping it's going to turn out to be cool. It's going to be some extra paperwork. But.
Yeah, I like that you're changing the format up, too, because as we start doing more and more shows in the States, it helps that the format changes at least a little bit amongst different, at least the bigger shows, because it gives people more incentive to go and want to do those events. Because if you're going to an event and you're like, well, it's just the same old tournament, maybe I'll do something a little bit more fun, then you can lose players that way.
Right.
But if you're changing the format up and you're making it interesting, then you can bring them on.
Yeah, I'm excited. I like the escalation idea too, because that's going to make round 1 like an hour game. It's going to make round 2 a couple hour game. And then you can have a nice big 2,000 point battle at the end. And being as it's June, we should have a ton of shiny new stuff from Battle for Earth. It'll be fun to see a big new game. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it should be pretty fun.
Hopefully I know someone at TT Combat that can officially give me some information beforehand so I can kind of plan for stuff. But
yeah.
Hey, Don,
as far as what?
I don't know, whatever cool surprises I might be able to throw out.
Okay, sure, yeah. So since we're talking about events, if you haven't noticed, I put up on the Fleet and Zone communities that we're starting to take feedback on as we look towards getting new tournament packs out for next year. Maybe a bit of a change to the tournament scoring format, not the game scoring, but the tournament scoring. I think the 20-0 system has its merits, but I think everybody can agree there needs to be a win-loss.
It's so convenient that you bring this up.
Why?
Well, because I was reworking scoring for the event at Origins, and
okay.
That was one of my changes. Was the first category for determining placement is going to be win loss. So you get 2 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, and no points for a loss. Is the way I'm looking at it right now. So then your first tiebreaker is going to be tournament points, standard like they've always been. But I'm not going to do kill point swing on that. It's just going to be straight up tournament points. Then kill points will be a third tiebreaker.
Okay.
That's the way I'm looking at it right now. I've been trying to math out some scenarios in my head just to make sure that that's not like a broken way to do it. But, that's the way they do it in hockey. So it works for them.
Yeah, I think the direction we're probably going to go in is we'll keep the kill point aspect in both games, but we'll go with the way that Fleet did it, and that both can potentially get points for having done so.
Yeah.
Keep the 20-point scoring option in there, but go with a win-loss record first over anything else.
Yeah, I think win-loss is really like your best. I like starting with win-loss because it makes your wins and losses matter.
And what I like about is the kill point thing is also, especially the way the Fleet does it, is there's such a chunk of points between the tournament points that you don't necessarily have to count up every single little tick of units, because I'm not going to require people to put that into the tournament pack. And it just makes it a little bit faster for scoring at the end. You can say, well, it was definitely not 200 more points, so you're not going to get to the next level, so here's your extra points or whatever,
Yeah, well, and we've seen time and again, and I know Patrick has said this several times, the problem with that 20-0 scoring is that you win your first game big, you lose your second game big, you go down to the bottom table and you get a 20-0 in round 3, and you're 2-1, but you win the tournament because the person that didn't lose a game had 3 really good games and his score was tight all 3 games.
Right.
You could still potentially have similar issues with just the win-loss thing, though.
Well, not true. If you win all 3 games and you're 2-1, then automatically the person with the 3-0 record is above you.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you're going to run into that is if you have 3-0 tie, then those two go to tournament points to determine what happened. So if the one guy did get an easy 20-0 win round 1, then maybe that does give him a swing, but he didn't lose a game.
the thing is too is you reach a certain point in tournament size. If it's strictly win-loss at the beginning, mm-hmm. It effectively becomes a single elimination tournament if you have like 8 or more people.
Yeah, and somebody else mentioned that too, that a tournament size needs to kind of dictate a little bit too.
I wouldn't know because I actually did not read that post because I wanted to be like my idea is original.
So, but yeah, definitely lots of really good feedback so far from everybody in the community. So I really thank them for that. Because moving forward, like I'm always trying to reach out to the community for ideas and things like that. Like personally on my end, because they're the ones playing the games and spending the money on our stuff. So obviously we're not going to be able to keep everybody happy. And at a certain point we need to be, we don't want to let the community dictate the game in general, but certainly some aspects of stuff like that. I mean, a tournament is all about the community. That's 100% them showing up, playing our game. So if there was ever something that I reach out to them and find out what they want, it would certainly be this sort of aspect.
Maybe more it's rather than a swing back and forth for your opponents. Could a win be worth 10, a tie will be worth 5, and a loss be worth none? And then you have a sliding scale of when you score victory points in a game, you get this many for differential, and same with kill points, but it's a smaller number than that 0, 5, and 10 for wins and draws.
I think the problem is just the bracket matchup. Like Derek was saying, if you get crushed in your second game, I mean, if you crush the first game but get crushed in the second game, and then crush the last game, that's pretty much almost a guaranteed win for you over somebody who had 3
correct
wins. But so we kind of that's where the break needs to come into play. And no tournaments.
You 20-0 round 1, and let's say you 18-2 or 2-18 round 2, so you're at 22 points. But 20-0 round 3, you're at 42 points.
But the danger is if it's win-loss record before anything else, then you lose your first game 11-9. You're out. You can't win.
So you think you keep? Well, I'm glad we brought this up then. So what's your suggestion? Do you keep tournament points as they were and then use win-loss second?
Maybe, or maybe it's.
Or do you use win-loss as an automatic tiebreaker? Like, it doesn't matter if someone outpointed you if you beat them.
How does the loss game 1 automatically kick you out of the tournament?
If there's 8 or more people, because you're gonna take winners versus winners and losers versus losers. So
wait, slow down. So win-loss. Okay. Yeah.
If we're only 3 rounds and you have 8 or more people, you can't do a round robin. So you have 4 winners after the first game.
Not necessarily.
Well, you could have draws, but so let's say you have 3 winners, 1 draw, and so 2 drawers and 3 losers.
Okay. So you're going to take your drawers and you're going to go to their tournament points to find out who has the best record from the draws, and you're going to put them against
winner versus winner, winner versus draw, draw versus loser, draw, and loser versus loser.
Yeah, but it's not just so winner versus winner is going to be based off their tournament points, though. So you're still going to have the 2 highest tournament points at that point.
But then after that game, you're going to have a winner versus a winner who's one of those is going to be 2-0.
Because or you could have 2 more draws.
You could. But the people that lost the first game versus the people that won the first game, chances are you're not. If a guy wins the first 2 games versus the guy that lost the first game, there's no catching up just because of who would end up playing who.
The other option is that you do a top table during the last round. So you take the top 2 best players, or even the top 4 best players, and you do a first and second and third and fourth table.
Mm-hmm.
And the outcome of that determines their placement, not their overall score.
Yeah.
That's how I've seen many tournaments go like that, where they do tournament scoring, and then at the end you place the top players, and then that game determines their placement. So that's another option too. So again, more things that we can look at and sort of decide what direction we want to go in.
Good times. Wow, we just ended on the most boring thing we could end on, didn't we?
Well, I mean, it's important. I mean, we're going into a whole second edition, and I think that the thing that we've really touched on the least is probably organized play, tournament scoring, and things like that, and how that's going to change and how we want to improve on it. So
I think it's almost universally agreed that it needs addressed in some way, shape, or form.
So to open up a question to the community, is it too early to talk Gen Con? I know we had a narrative events last year. We didn't do a tournament because that's a big time sink at Gen Con. I know Fox did the Battle for Chicago, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't. We actually don't have ideas for Gen Con just yet.
Well, it's only 9 months away. Jesus, we got to get cracked.
But event submission is coming up.
Does anyone have any ideas of a story thing that they might like to see?
Yeah, that's true.
I say 9 months half joking. I mean, I'm looking at 7 months to Origins, and I'm seriously working on an event already. So it is. There's a lot of prep, especially at the bigger cons, to get this stuff in and hopefully get it right.
Right. Yeah, and I think that just to add on to Jordan's, not only what would you like to see, but also if you have something you would like to run at Gen Con.
Yeah.
Certainly worth hitting me up personally at hawktalondon at gmail.com. If you will email me if you are interested in running something at Gen Con. We can talk more about that. It's not a guarantee that we'll have you do it. I mean, and a lot of things that go into that is if you want to do something elaborate, you're needing to provide your own terrain and stuff like that. We can help to a certain degree, but if you wanted to do this amazing, huge scenario event and you aren't willing to put the time and effort into your own terrain and stuff, then there's a certain amount of help we can only give you. So just some food for thought before you start thinking about volunteering for that.
Well, you guys got anything else, or should we be looking at wrapping up?
No, I think that's it. I guess I just want to wish all our listeners a happy holidays, whatever your holiday might be, and
happy Hanukkah, Merry Kwanzaa.
Right, yeah, and
Merry Christmas.
Looking forward to getting back into the swing of things after the holiday here. I think we can. We'll have to do a full recap of the calendar when we get into the next event. Maybe we'll have some really cool new stuff to talk about, and I'm working on potentially some new guests coming over and joining us for next month. So
I do have one thing to talk about that I've forgotten the last couple of times we've talked. I've been doing some contributing for Paint All the Minis, which is another podcast / Facebook group / webpage that focuses on miniatures and painting and gaming and whatnot. On their page now, I have done a Drop Fleet Commander 2-player starter box unboxing, a build and paint for the UCM, a build and paint for the PHR, and a short rules overview. And I am getting ready to shoot a 2-player starter battle report for them. And I'm hoping when version 2 gets around that I'll have the opportunity to do the same thing for Drop Zone. But if you are not familiar with that page, go ahead and look them up on Facebook, YouTube, or just the interwebs and give them a like and follow and try to build up some fleet and zone love there. I'm just trying to do a little community outreach and spread the game out. Give it the PR it deserves. I've listened to the podcast that he did for a while, and it doesn't fail that someone comes on there, every 4 or 5 episodes. He's got over 100 episodes. but they're like, oh, I played Zone or I played Fleet, but no one around me played. And it's like, oh, it's the same story. I'm like, damn it, I play it. There's people around me that play it, and people need to know that people do play this game. It's not just out there and ignored. So, all right, I'm off that soapbox.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that if anybody has any interests outside of even Zone Fleet or even TT Combat stuff, like we kind of brought up video games in this episode, we'd like to, feel free to talk with us about those things too. No guarantee we'll know what you're talking about, but
I'll know. I know everything.
Yeah, you are the resident know-it-all nerd. So
hey,
you didn't know what a Quonset hut was.
I was about to say, Jordan sits there silently, knowing a lot of stuff and just not talking about it. So he is an encyclopedic, or fuck, I can't even talk now. It's late. It's my bedtime. Jordan has a wealth of knowledge. He just doesn't like to spit it out all over the place all the time.
Can't be cocky about things.
You can or can't. Yeah, shit, I do it all the time.
If there was ever more of a format to talk about things you know about.
Right.
So
timing is everything, though, and I don't have it a lot of times, so.
True. Any last thoughts on your end, Jordan?
No, I think we've covered it all.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Well, please subscribe, review on whatever media you're watching us on, and share to help spread our sphere of influence. Thanks for listening, guys. Happy holidays, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Later.
See ya.